everyone should be treated equally. I hope people learned something during this quarantine with a lot of protests and riots. And all of the stuff that happened, I hope they learned that we just want to be treated equally and not looked at different because of the color of our skin.
Briefly describe your journey in becoming a leader in Delaware.
Okay. Well, I moved to Delaware from Virginia. Hard to believe, 35 years ago, right after attending Hampton University, and moved up here for grad school. And my journey began there, getting to know the state, getting to know the local communities, and really recognizing that, Delawareans have a big heart for children, big heart for families and community, and felt very much at home, and started working as a school psychologist in Newcastle County school districts and stayed. And so I look back and can't believe how long it's been, but it's been a great opportunity for me to kind of marry my passion for seeing youth develop and families, get the best out of their young people, and really recognizing that it takes all of us. We are a community, and it requires each and every one of us to invest in the lives of our kids. Interesting. I grew up at a time when, when I was in school, we didn't learn specifically about the history of brown people in this country. I grew up in Virginia, and Virginia history is really taught to be American history. And so where I learned about the history of brown people and who I was as, my identity was in my family and in my church. That village community really wrapped arms around us and taught us about our histories, but also about the great resilience of our people beyond what we might see in community and in school. And I think that it was a real blessing for me. We need to restore that feeling of community. Community is where you make it. So, and it's so much broader than just people who look like you. And so I think it's so important for us to learn about self, but also recognize that in the process of learning about self, you also want to broaden your world by learning about other people, getting to know and perspective take about other people's experiences, because that's how we build empathy and care for others. And that's so important, and often feels like at times it's so missing. But I believe we can, one family, one community at a time, get it back. Get it back and really learn to appreciate each other and each other's humanity.
What does Juneteenth mean to you?
Well, I think it's a celebration of freedom and liberty, a celebration of being better than your circumstances, recognizing that there is purpose beyond the pain, and recognizing that through it all, we have connection, family, community, faith, and those connections are the ties that bind us together as a group, but also those are the ties that keep us strong when negative things and adversity come our way. We can always stand strong on the shoulders of those who come before us. And I think remembering Juneteenth and celebrating it with pride is one of the things that I hold dear to my heart. It's a celebration that I didn't learn about when I was younger, and went to college at the very location where the Emancipation Oak is. It's on Hampton's campus, and that's where the letter was read to the Virginia slaves. And then to find out that almost 2 and a half years later, enslaved people in Texas were finally finding out that they were free. I think it reminds us that there are systems at work that try to hold us down, but when you stand on truth, nothing can hold you back. uh, and that we can persevere. We are a persevering people in spite of what is done or has been done to us and what's been done around us. And those are the things that I will hold on to as I celebrate this year and others.
So my first question is, when did you first become aware of the Juneteenth holiday?
Yes, I became aware of Juneteenth when I was in college. So this had to be between 2007 and 2011 when I graduated. So my major, well, one of my majors was African American Studies. So when I went to college, I was a mass media major, but I took so many African American and African history courses that I was able to declare a major. And through that, I learned of Juneteenth and the celebration of it, and that there were small pockets of people celebrating it throughout our country, and recognizing Juneteenth. So it was really that experience of just being in college and just seeking that knowledge of like, who am I? And wanting to find that history that I discovered Juneteenth.
How do you think we should celebrate Juneteenth?
How should we celebrate Juneteenth? Think I think that's going to look very different for a lot of people. Um, and I don't know. I kind of have fallen doing what we do for 4th of July, barbecue, families get together. I think teaching your children about some very basic things, I think is important. So making sure like you're wearing like the red, the green, and the black, like that is like the national Pan-African flag by Marcus Garvey, and it's like very empowering. Like for my 5-year-old, I'm like, what does black mean? She's like, for the people, green is for the land, red is for the blood of our ancestors, right? So I think like taking Juneteenth in that time to really instill some things into everyone, because my mom didn't know these things, right? So teaching my mom these things and like really imparting, I think the education piece, I think is so key for Juneteenth. And of course, like I think it's natural for us to want to like come together. So barbecues, gatherings, even doing the fireworks, I think are cool to do for Juneteenth. So I think it's really important that people really find what fits for them to celebrate in Juneteenth. I think maybe even like making sure you learn about different patterns, like different African patterns. And I say African very broad because there's so many different countries, but learning about specific patterns of clothing and why that means that way, right? Because sometimes we just buy dashikis and think it's cool, right? But those patterns really have like significant symbols and meanings to them, right? So really just to learn like our African roots and culture, and also embracing what it means to be a Black American, I think is so key.